Hi everyone, it's been a while, but I do come with some news. I think by now most of the people in my life already knows, but I am currently pregnant and I recently entered the third trimester, and I thought this would be a good video to talk about just to mark that transition. I thought it would be a good idea to talk about my first and second trimester journey, and basically everything that's been going on with my pregnancy so far. Part of the reason I'm making this is because I really like hearing about these things from other people. I know some people would feel like it's a bit anxiety inducing, but I like to be aware of my possibilities and be able to manage my expectations as well. I'm able to kind of distance myself from people's experiences, so I don't mind overloading myself with different experiences and different information, and I'm able to kind of pick apart what I should focus on and what I should. I actually started a journal devoted to my pregnancy journey. Part of it is to just give myself some comfort because there are some things that I obviously don't feel comfortable talking about, and at the same time, it's kind of like some of the entries that I've written, they're addressed to my future child, and I thought it would be cute. I'm obviously not going to give it to them the moment that they're able to read, probably when they're an adult. And I don't know, maybe I won't even give it to them, because sometimes some of those things might be just me trauma dumping. I wanted to remember as much as I can with this journey because this is something that I never thought I was going to go through initially, and who knows if it will happen again, but that's part of the reason why I wanted to document as much information about what I'm feeling, what's physically changing about me, all the crazy thoughts that I've had. This is how my belly looks like at the moment. What's funny about the first trimester was that the moment that it was confirmed for me that I was pregnant, because mind you, I didn't really feel anything prior to knowing that I was pregnant, but upon the knowledge and confirmation that I am pregnant, it was like, what, a few days later, the bomb of like symptoms just come crashing onto me, and I just felt everything like nausea, heartburn, a lot of bloating. Pretty lucky in that way. I know some people don't feel anything, but like I've read of those circumstances where some people were like throwing up every single day, and then I didn't have that despite the nausea. I only threw up one time because I did get sick during my first trimester. I was sick for 3 weeks, and it probably wouldn't have lasted that long if I wasn't pregnant. For me, the only thing that relieved my nausea, even just temporarily, for like for that 30 minutes or an hour, is me walking outside, just doing anything outdoor. So running or walking, that alleviated my nausea for a bit. I was really lucky about that. But then the moment that I stop and enter my home, it comes back right away. It doesn't even like pause for a second. I think the biggest struggle with doing any sort of physical activity is just starting, because I would feel like crap. And on top of that, I had food aversion because of my bloating and the heartburn. Everything that I love to eat, I suddenly don't want to eat anymore. And I'm somebody who loves stews and spices, spicy thing. I love coffee, but all of a sudden all of those things I didn't want. I didn't want to touch them. I love to cook. I did not cook for two or 3 months while I was feeling this nausea, and it was because I couldn't stand the smell of food cooking. It didn't matter what that food was. Very lucky because I do have my parents with me. So most of the time I ate leftovers because by the time that they're leftovers, I wouldn't smell the fact that they're cooking. One of the things that I did just to make it easier for me was buy frozen foods. And I normally don't like frozen foods, but I had to survive, right? I had to feed myself. At least in the air fryer, maybe it would smell a bit, but it would go away really quickly because obviously there are a lot of hormones changing, and I was crying a lot during the first trimester, partially from like frustration with the symptoms that I was feeling, on top of the fact that I was also sick, because I am somebody who has a lot of energy, mental and emotional energy and social energy. They're very low. But when it comes to like physical things, so like if I just have to move my body, like if I have to exercise, if I have to clean, like I can do those things. I have a lot of energy and I wanted to do a lot of things. That's just how I am. And I know it's not so much about like being productive, and I'm trying to get away from that, but it was just frustrating not being able to do the things that I want to, even the easiest things, just because I was sick. And when I said I'm sick, like I wish like it was just a fever, and then I could just drink medicine and then I would just sleep. But when I got sick that time, I was coughing a lot. I was coughing the most when during the nighttime, so I couldn't sleep properly. So it was very hard. I couldn't really rest during that time, and then during the daytime I had my nausea. I was also crying whenever I just think about becoming a mom, and the fact that I'm pregnant. Like that's what got me crying the most, because I would just like I just couldn't believe it. It took a very long time for me to kind of be like, wow, like this is really happening. This is really happening. I tried my best to eat, but it was mostly food aversions. The most common question pregnant people get is like, oh, do you have any food cravings? And mine was boring because I had no cravings. Had I categorized the food as like safe foods, as in foods that I can consume without feeling like utter crap, or foods that I don't want to deal with, I should avoid. For the foods that I was able to consume, majority of it was like vegetable. I really enjoyed fruits, like specifically sour fruits. I didn't really care about sweets during my first trimester, surprisingly enough. I mostly ate simple ingredients, one ingredient meal. So like eggs I was able to eat, rice I was able to eat. Things that are like closer to the bland department, a lot of crackers, a lot of cereals. I didn't like curries, I didn't like stews, I didn't like anything fried. I didn't like anything too sweet. Like I didn't like specifically berry related stuff unless it was strawberries. Went more for kiwis and grapes. Those were my safe things. And the thing that I kept eating throughout like my first and second trimester were dynamite rolls, because they kept me full enough, but it didn't give me any heartburn. So that was nice. So like dynamite and green dragon, because they have the cooked shrimp tempura inside it. Another thing that I noticed started happening to me, then like I just wasn't able to feel sleepy anymore. And on top of that, mind you, I normally get like vivid dreams. I started getting like crazy ass dreams, and this was happening almost every night. And I have a record somewhere documenting the ones that I do want to remember, but they were really funny and some of them were really screwed up. They've calmed down for now, but that's kind of funny to say because I did have a crazy dream last night and I hit Paul in our sleep. Another thing was that this one not as common as the others, but I had this taste in my mouth that was disgusting. It was, the best way I could describe it is that it's bitter and sweet at the same time. And if I were to be specific in describing it, it reminded me of, you know, when you drink flavored fruity cough syrup, and then after you swallow it, even when you drink water, there's an aftertaste that stays on your mouth, on your tongue, and even if you drank the water, it doesn't go away. It was like that. So it was like that until like maybe the beginning of second trimester. And it didn't matter how flavorful the foods that I ate were, how strong the flavors were. So even if I put a lemon in my mouth, if I ate garlic or onions, spicy food, it did not matter. It would still be there. I would brush my tongue. I would scrape my tongue. There was a point when I started bleeding of it because of how much I scraped it, because I really just didn't want to taste anything. So on top of that, basically first trimester just didn't, my body just didn't want me to eat for some reason, but I needed to eat, right? Now on to my second trimester. My nausea was slowly getting better and going away. The bloating was still there. I think that was the worst part. I started being able to tolerate smells a little bit better. And then there was a point, like probably midway, not even midway, like a quarter of the way, where I was able to tolerate scents again. I was able to eat the things that I like to eat. I was able to run again. I was able to work out like in the intensity that I would want to work out at. Nausea eventually faded, thank goodness. A lot of that is because the placenta is already built at that point. It was very emotional still though, because and the things that normally wouldn't make me cry, wouldn't make me bat an eye at, would get me crying. If I see anything related to parenthood, I would cry. Anything with children, I would cry. It's crazy because I was never like that. I was never that person, you know. I was never a person who went like goo goo gaga over little kids. The transition and the contrast from like pre-pregnancy and now is kind of insane. So in the middle of my second trimester, the thing with me is that I have I have really good pain tolerance, and sometimes things are painful maybe for other people, but to me they will just be uncomfortable. Like those things would just so I couldn't 100% really trust my body, or at least my perception of my discomfort, if it's something that I should be concerned about. So I've been running. I was running until I think 25 weeks of my pregnancy. I also started like the 75 hard challenge. And I know some people would be like, why the heck would you start a 75 hard challenge while you're pregnant? But it wasn't necessarily to lose weight, because I'm not trying to lose weight. It was more so that I wanted some sort of consistency and a schedule, because that's what I struggle with. You don't need to do hard workouts. A lot of the workouts that I paired with my running and my strength training, a lot of them were stretching, doing pelvic floor exercises, a lot of mobility. You know, they were very low intensity, very slow, very easy on my body. And honestly, it helped a lot for me. There was a week where I think I did too much. If I'm not running, I would be walking, and it was around Chief's birthday, so we walked quite a bit, several days in a row, just to give him that outdoor experience. So our walks were a lot longer, and we went to a park to hike a bit, and I was also running because I signed up for a 10K race before I knew I was going to be pregnant. And this was a lot of money, and I was so devoted and dedicated to finish that race, even if I had to walk, because it fell on Mother's Day, and I thought it was fate that it fell on Mother's Day, and I just thought it would be cool to be able to complete a race while pregnant. I was very sure that I was going to be able to do it, but then what happened was, after that very hard week, I started noticing that there was this sensation, this discomfort that I was feeling. And the thing is, I felt it mildly while running. But what made me kind of take it more seriously was me feeling it during everyday movements, such as me putting on my shoes, me putting on my bottoms, my underwear, me putting on my socks, me turning side to side. And if you're listening to these symptoms, you probably know that they're the signs of pubis symphysis dysfunction or pelvic girdle pain, but apparently that term is like an umbrella term for everything. I know there's also like round ligament pain, and I do feel that from time to time, but that one wasn't really debilitating for me because I did a lot of stretches and it helped with that. But and the things to avoid are one, like imbalance workouts. So I couldn't really do any strengthening workout that involved running, at least the one-legged ones, like unilateral workouts. I had to keep my legs together for most of my movements. So I stuck with barbell squats. I avoided lunges. I avoided one-legged anything, you know. And running is a one-legged exercise because you're alternating, you're balancing on one leg at a time. And walking, I couldn't do too much walking either. Like I had to take it easy with the walking as well. I can still walk to this day. Like I still allow myself to do that, but I don't go crazy. I'm not trying to conquer like any long walks at the moment. I've just been walking with my husband while he walks Chief, and I listen to any flare-ups that I feel down there. But yeah, I had to suck it up and not run anymore because, and honestly, I would have kept running because it was honestly a pain that I was able to tolerate. But it's supposed to stop postpartum, but some people feel it postpartum because I don't want to make it worse due to that. There's already so much recovery that you have to do postpartum, and I don't want to add to that. So I'm just sucking it up, and then I'll just restart later. I started feeling movements in the second trimester. It was mostly flutters, and then the I guess they were kicks. I don't know, or the head moving because I mostly felt it where the head was. I do have an anterior placenta, so but I do feel a lot of movement. It's more consistent now. Another symptom that I got nearing the third trimester, my ribs. I know they're expanding. I know all my organs are being rearranged right now to make room for the baby. But the rib pain, I feel it the most when I'm laying down, when I'm resting, or when I'm laying back on a couch like this, let's say. So that's why I'm not really leaning back. It's basically positions of rest hurts my rib, unfortunately. Want to see my dog? Because of this, my sleep is even worse. It's like my sleep's not getting better. And you know, some people joke, yeah, it's training for when the baby comes. But it would have been nice to be able to sleep while I was able to sleep, you know what I mean? Because I know I'm not going to do a lot of sleeping later. I already know that. That's already a given. I don't have any edema and stuff, but I know that like your circulation, something happens with your circulation as well that could cause you to be more prone to like muscle cramps. I've only gotten the muscle cramps twice, thank goodness. And this was during my sleep. You know, when you stretch and you pull a muscle. When I was younger, that was a very common thing that happened to me, and it was mostly around my ankle area, my toe area. But the new thing that happened with me on my calf, and it was so painful. Like I would feel that pain even like after massaging it, after the cramp like loosens up a bit, like there was still that like sharp kind of like a bruising pain afterwards. So It was a bit hard to walk a day or two after that, but I found a way to make it easier for myself and prevent that from happening. I'm gonna talk about that in a different video. I'm gonna make a video on the things that I did to make my pregnancy just a little bit easier. Those are my experiences so far. I think I think in the middle of my second trimester, I forgot to mention this. The texture of my skin on my stomach area as it was growing, I know the skin is stretching and all that, it became a bit rough, and it didn't matter what sort of lotion I put, it just felt like it was sitting on top. Yeah, so we're in the last stretch of my pregnancy. Wish me luck. I did pass my glucose test, but I found out I'm anemic. So can't have everything, right? And it's funny because like my mom would always comment on how pale I look and how I look like I'm losing blood. But this was before I was pregnant, and she would always encourage me to eat. And I do eat. That's the thing. I eat a lot. It's just she doesn't see me eat. But yeah, my hemoglobin levels were normal prior to pregnancy, even like during the first blood test that I did as a pregnant person, and then all of a sudden, the blood test that I did after that, you just see a slow drop of my hemoglobin. So yeah, I'm just on that iron thing. So hopefully I fix that, and hopefully everything goes well.